search. Instead, call me at 615-584-1057. Either myself or a member of my local team will help prepare you for today's mortgage lending do's and don'ts. Again, that number is 615-584-1057. Andy Voiles, NMLS 149890.
Novus Home Mortgage is a division of Azona Bank, NMLS 423065. Member FDIC. This is not a commitment to lend. Equal housing lender.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. Kind of a cloudy, overcast Friday. It's a little cool, but you know what? It is going to get better in the next couple of weeks, once and for all. And when it does, it's going to be fun. Anyway, we welcome all of you to our digs at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. We got a good show for you today, which probably will end up with a lot of discussion out of Knoxville, because there's a lot going on up there. And, man, are there going to be some opinions?
There is a lot going on. It's not getting better. I think a lot of people thought it was going to get a little bit better. Maybe they could do a solution, but there hasn't been anything. There's questions that is he even in Knoxville right now? I mean, spring game tomorrow, wasn't it practice today? It's going to get interesting.
So, Billy, I want to say this delicately. So, I have gotten from a great source who is not Tony Basilio exactly what's going on. And what you've got right now is sort of a 24-hour kind of University of Tennessee donor free-for-all, where you've got some of the potential donors saying, screw him, and another group that's probably being more practical saying, we haven't got anybody better, so we're going to put up with it. Nico is showing a side of him that first of all, I have no use for. I don't know all of the NIL stuff. And what I mean by stuff is, do these kids sign a contract with somebody?
Oh, yeah. Nico's making $2.4 million on his contract right now, but the market has gone up and he wants more. So,
right. And look, he's not the first one that's done this, but he is the first that I think it's fair to say has been this open, where you know all of it.
Right.
For instance, I have every reason to believe that Diego Pavia did the same thing behind closed doors, where he said, okay, I'm free to play again. I'm worth a lot more than what I got a year ago. I'm worth a hell of a lot more than Nate Johnson, who ultimately ended up leaving, but at one point was getting paid way more than him. It feels like they kept their dirty laundry behind closed doors. This one's gotten out in the open.
Yeah.
And it's pissed some people off.
Yeah, as it should. I mean, it shouldn't be this way. This stuff should not be going on. And really from the beginning, George, it's been public. This was the first blockbuster contract for NIL contract for a quarterback. And, we saw right after the season, a lot of people thought, is he going to Miami? Right. And then it fizzled down, but now he's holding out apparently. I mean, what is this? This the NFL? I mean, he's kind of been the trendsetter, I guess you could say, in NIL deals. But I don't know, why can't this stay quiet? I'm with you. I don't. It doesn't look good for either Tennessee or Nico.
Well, he's the first one that we really know about that is a quote holdout.
Right.
Okay. And how the fan base ultimately, once they get down to game one, reacts to it is anybody's guess. Now, what it does do is if and when he struggles, he's probably going to hear more of it because of the way he's conducted himself. All of this said, a year ago, I would describe his performance, other than the Ohio State playoff game, where I thought he really showed a level of toughness that was really admirable. The rest of the season, pretty average.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what he did last year, and yeah, shows
pretty
the toughness
average
against Ohio State. He threw 19 touchdowns, but 11 of those came against Chattanooga, UTEP, and Vandy. That's courtesy of the Bear on Twitter, Chris Felica. 4 of 9 touchdowns in SEC play came against Vandy. And yeah, he played well against Vandy. Played okay. Played solid against Ohio State. Showed some toughness, but is he worth the $4 million that it looks like he wants?
No, but here's where the problem comes in. Okay, they are, given that they have a 100,000 seat stadium, they are a multi-million-dollar business. They've got an athletic director who didn't give a damn about his fans, who decided to lay out while the going's good, we're going to screw you over with an excise
talent
tax,
fee. Yeah,
a talent fee, whatever you want to call it. He went ahead and did that. And in all honesty, because this is just a cold, hard business, they're sitting there saying, what do we got on the roster if we tell him to jump in the lake? And the answers aren't good enough to tell him to jump in the lake. And look, Nico's probably a smart kid, whether he is or not, his representation, whatever that is, they're smart enough to figure out what I've figured out, which is they haven't got any better options. And so as long as that's the case, the tail is wagging the dog, period.
Yep.
Pure and simple.
He's got Tennessee in the palm of his hands.
Well, I might have thought of a different location, but sure, that'll work. Yeah.
The tiger by the tail.
Yeah.
So
that's certainly not what I was thinking.
But I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, number one, where is he? Why wasn't he at practice?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
and is he in the game? Is he at the game tomorrow? Does he talk publicly? The portal opens, this next spring window opens in 5-6 days on the 16th. So
part of the problem also is the copycat stuff. If Tennessee were to say to him, listen, you can take your little holdout and shove it up your butt, they end up, while it feels good to be able to tell him that, it also puts them behind an 8 ball where it says to all the others out there, beware of Tennessee. They'll play hardball.
Yeah, but if they do keep him, there's the reputation of they can be bullied. And then you've got other players asking for raises on the team and things like that. So they're really in a no-win situation. I mean, if Nico comes
but a
back,
lot of schools could be bullied.
Right. But I don't know. You look at this, the win for Tennessee, best case is you pay him, he comes back, he's your quarterback.
And he has a great year.
Right.
But here's the flip side of it, okay? If he were to really struggle, old Neyland Stadium might just quit singing Rocky Top and turn on him.
And if he does leave, you're right. That they don't, I mean, they're up a creek because Jake Merklinger is not Nico Iamaleava. And, they're in a spot where they're going to have to pay up either way. If they lose Nico, that obviously frees up some money, but you're going to have to spend to go out and grab a really good quarterback from the portal anyway. So either way this goes, they're going to have to spend money. I don't know what's going to happen here.
It all speaks to what we've been putting out there for a while, which is if this is really the state of college athletics, and it is, we have lost our way. And the NCAA, they had their chance a few years ago to kind of make a better bed than this. But they did what they always did, which was act like a bunch of buttholes. And they've got some of this coming. Whether the schools do or not, you can argue. But the NCAA, when they had all the cards on their table, and you would hear a story where a school petitioned so that the kid could go home, to his grandmother's funeral, and the NCAA acted like a bunch of buttholes, and people got tired of that and started fighting back. And now we've got a system that has gone not only too far, it's gone way too far.
This is ridiculous.
It is.
But we'll see what happens. And again, if anything does happen during the show, we'll keep you guys updated on the Nico situation, the saga in Knoxville. This update brought to you by Lori Brunette Leland. You can find her online, mortgageladyyusa.com, or give her a call, 615-969-4350.
By the way, let me say this. I would really like, we had some things scheduled earlier today that before all this really got out that we're going to go with. But I would love for some of you to give me some feedback by way of our text line, because I want to, after we have Mark McGee, I want to run through this. I want to kind of gauge where y'all are with this.
Yeah, chat room's open. You can comment or ask us a question there on YouTube. You can do the same on Twitter and Facebook. Phone line's open around 4:30-ish as well.
Yeah, give or take.
So if you want to hold out for that, like Nico is holding out right now, you can do that. But the chat room is open if you want to go ahead and chime in, give us your thoughts. And Nico, again, not at practice today. We'll see what happens tomorrow and really the next 24, 48 hours with Iam Aliava. We do have a Masters leaderboard update. Right now, Justin Rose alone in first place at 8 under. Bryson DeChambeau at 7 under. We've got 3 guys tied for third. Rory McIlroy, Tyrrell Hatton, and Scotty Scheffler all at 6 under. The big story is Rory McIlroy himself. He struggled a little bit yesterday in the first round, but he's recovered after that tough first round. He's back up toward the top. Scheffler and DeChambeau, of course, are close contenders. Jordan Spieth lurking close behind as well. So, yeah. But Justin Rose, a little bit of a surprise. We talked about Scheffler and McIlroy being up at the top. See if Justin Rose can hang on.
There are some big names way up on that leaderboard. Do I think that Justin Rose wins this? I don't. Because there are too many names that it feels like could put a real run together. Not that I'm the golf fan or the golf expert, but when you start talking DeChambeau and McIlroy and Scheffler, that's not exactly chopped liver.
Yeah, McIlroy 6
You won't find them over at McCabe.
No. McIlroy 6 under today. So he got hot today. Tyrrell Hatton played really well today. Scheffler is 2 under so far. He's through 9 holes today. So that's what you've got. We'll keep you guys updated there on that leaderboard as well. In the NFL, though, earlier today, the Browns and Joe Flacco reached an agreement on a 1-year, $4 million contract. Flacco returns to Cleveland, where he won Comeback Player of the Year a couple of years ago after leading the Browns to the playoffs. So reuniting with Flacco.
Yeah, it's really interesting because right now it's Flacco and Kenny Pickett, and the belief is that they will, whether it's, in the first round of the draft or later, that they're going to take a quarterback. They have basically wiped their hands of Deshaun Watson in one of the all-time disaster transactions that has ever taken place in the NFL.
It finally feels like it took them forever to do that. But you look at where the Browns are, and they're picking third. Or no, they're actually picking second, my bad. The Giants are picking third. Travis Hunter, right now is mocked to go to the Browns. You wonder if they, do they take Shedeur Sanders?
Who knows?
But we're also still
between a week and a half away between now and the actual with the third pick in the 2025 NFL draft. You're going to hear a lot of lying.
You are. Well, there wasn't a ton of lying about what the Braves were able to do last night. Thanks to a walk-off homer from Marcell Ozuna, the Braves beat the Phillies 4-2 in 11 innings to win the series. So obviously that's good news. Even better news, Ronald Acuna Jr. will have his left knee reevaluated next week as he works to return to the lineup. So after next week, maybe he's 2 weeks away at this point?
I'd go
3?
More mid-May. Spencer Strider will start in it. Well, they're on the road. He will make a start in Toronto, I believe, next Wednesday. Spencer Strider has had 2 minor league things where he has wiped the competition off the face of the earth. It appears that they know it and are like, it's a waste of time. He's at 90 pitches. They're bringing him up. This just in, their offense sucks.
Yeah, their offense isn't necessarily moving the needle right now. You go back and look at the lineup they had last night. Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, De La Cruz in left. You had Stuart Fairchild out there in the outfield as well, playing right. You had Michael Harris. But a guy I didn't know of, Nick Allen.
Nick Allen, yeah, who looks like he's 12.
He's 5'8", 170 pounds.
The problem with the Braves, that outfield is a joke right now.
Yeah.
Michael Harris is really the one proven big league player. Fairchild's a bit player. Jared Kelenic has been a complete bust. They sent a lot of capital to get Jared Kelenic, and he has been a bust. And soon they're going to have to admit it.
Tonight, they got Bryce Elder on the mound in Tampa.
Yeah.
So they got a 3-game series in Tampa.
I'm not holding my breath.
Rays are pretty good.
Yeah. And look, this isn't a hopeless deal, but there's some issues that have not been there for a couple, 3 years. And anybody not thinking so is probably kidding themselves. This is a Liberty Media problem.
Liberty Media. Another good weekend of SEC baseball. This one will be fun. Number 4 Tennessee at number 7 Ole Miss. 6:30 tonight. Of course, they'll play 2 more times this weekend. Tennessee, as Tony said earlier this week, has a couple of players that used to be on Ole Miss's roster last year. Andrew Fisher, Liam Doyle, who'll be on the mound tonight for the Vols. So that will be one to watch throughout the weekend. Vandy is in Norman to play Oklahoma 7 o'clock tonight. So that's what we got.
Okay. I want to get some reactions by way of text line about this Nico thing. I really am curious how y'all feel. Me, this is the tail wagging the dog. Again, how do they reach out if they'd like to?
Chat room is open. It's on YouTube right now. If you're watching online, it's just to the right of the screen. You can chat right there. Type in your question or your comment. We'll see it and we'll get it over. But also Twitter and Facebook as well.
Pred's regular season is less than a week away from ending, thank God. Mark McGee will join us next, and we will ask the question that we've been asking. Is Barry Trotz going to fire Andrew Brunette? This is 94.9, The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. Dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Hey, Preds fans, the Predators play their final road game of the season tomorrow night against the Vegas Golden Knights. The game is at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Radio pregame coverage begins at 8.
Smashville lives here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Reds won last night in overtime in Utah against a team with no nickname by the score of 4-3. You know, I'd love to say, man, that's great. But at this point, who cares? The horse got out of the barn so early. None of this to me means a thing. It's all about once this season ends, then what? Mark McGee joins us to talk about it. Gee, thank you for taking the time to be on with us.
No problem. Then what? Doomed to despair and agony right now, it looks like. So,
what do you think happens at the end of the year?
This is not going to be a quick fix. This is not going to be a quick fix. They can look at teams like St. Louis, the Blues, who are now in the mix for the playoffs after kind of following along the way the Predators did a couple years ago. They don't want to look like the Chicago Blackhawks are still struggling to rebuild around Bedard. But this is not going to be something that's fixed. It'll be a couple of seasons. The next season is going to be, I hate to say it, next season will be hopefully as bad as this one. But next season is not going to be a playoff season either, I don't think. And
Okay.
I don't see them going out and getting a quick fix. I don't see them finding a couple of players. I mean, that's what Barry tried to do this past summer, and we saw what happened there. I just don't see it being a quick fix situation. And they've gotten a lot of players that they thought were capital as young players that they might have some future with. They've traded those guys off or let them go or whatever. And so that doesn't mean that bothers me a little bit too, from that standpoint. Because I just don't. It's going to be a while. It's going to be at least a year or two before this team's back in contention, I think.
Guy, all signs appear to point that Barry Trotz is going to retain Andrew Brunette, which I don't think will play. I don't think it'll go over particularly well. Talk to me about what you think the thought process is.
Well, I think it's kind of like we talked about earlier, is that I know Barry's been through the wars as being a coach, and it's kind of like he wins the Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals, and it's like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So I think the way he got treated there probably is in the back in front of his mind, and he's going, I don't want to treat Andrew that way. Just after I read this is one season technically with Andrew, and Andrew Brunette came in with a good trademark, a good pedigree as an offensive guru, especially on power play. And their power play has gotten better. Looking at positive, their power play is a little bit better than last year. But they've got to. I think that he's willing to give Andrew another chance. Now, if they start out worse than this year, heaven forbid, they start worse than this past year, and by Thanksgiving things looks like they're not going to get even close to being better, then maybe he pulls the trigger. I think he's going to give Andrew at least the start of the season next year to see what he can do. Like I said, this is not a coaching issue right now. It's a personnel issue, and they've got a lot of personnel to find.
Yeah, but when you say that, it appears to me, and again, this is based on being a season ticket holder, 304 row 1 and not much else, that the veterans have completely tuned Andrew Brunette out.
Yeah, they have, but I don't know how many of the veteran guys hang around through the summer either. I mean, you've got to keep a little bit of a core, but you got a lot of guys. You got a lot of guys in their 30s who, they're getting old as far as hockey players go. They are old as far as hockey players go. But most of them still have something left in the tank, something still that other teams might want to have as far as experience, as far as skills, that type of thing. And it might be time just to unload. You probably don't want to unload a Roman Yossi or Yossi Saros, but it might be time to unload some of these Ryan O'Reilly. I don't think Stamkos goes anywhere, or Marchessault. Marchessault should go somewhere, but I just think that they might have to unload some of these older veteran players and really start new. They do have some talent in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's back in the Calder Cup again. That's where they are there every year, it seems like. So they do have some talent there, and they got Matthew Wood, who they drafted a couple of years ago, 15th pick, and he signed entry level last month. Made his debut against Montreal. Played 2 games now, and has looked pretty good as a winger. He's big, 6'5" kid. He's playing on the line with Mitch McCarron and with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith, and the line average is about 6'4", and we've been looking for some power. It's a little bit of physical force there, and those 3 should be able to do that. So hopefully he's going to be in the mix comes fall. Michael Bunting, who's a lot of people were worried about them trading for him and what they were going to do with him. He's got a year left on his contract, but he likes to get in the dirty areas around the goal, which is something Barry likes, and that's something that's been missing from this team is willingness to get in that dirty area around the goal and really struggle and fight for puck. And Bundy, he can do that. So maybe they keep him around for a while, maybe use him as trade bait next year. So there are some people out. Svechkov is looking good. I mean, there are some bright lights, but there's nobody out there that you go, oh wow. There's no oh wow factor to anybody right now on this team.
So if George Plaster and Mark McGee are smart enough to be able to figure out that the veterans have tuned out Andrew Brunette, that has to mean that Barry Trotz knows, because he's a whole lot smarter about hockey than we are. Doesn't he have to sit down with that core group and say, okay, you're going to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and until you do, you're not getting out of this room?
Well, I think that's exactly what he needs to do. I think they've got to find out where did this all get started, and what was the impetus for this to start, and how do you make it go away? Because they've got to come out with a different attitude in the fall. They've just got to. So hopefully everybody have a great golf season or whatever, come back with better attitudes. But they've got to really he's got to address this. And he's a coach, veteran coach. He knows how to handle players, because I've talked to him in the past in depth about how you handle certain players and things. And I think he looks at players and goes like, if you want to be a major part of this team, you tell me what's going on, and because his feeling is, that the best way to get a player's attention is to bench them. And so I think he's going. So I can see him taking that approach with these veteran guys, saying, if you want to play and contribute to the team, tell me what's happening. If you don't, keep your mouth shut, and we'll put you on the bench or maybe trade you. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Gee, appreciate you hopping on. George, who was the coach that was mentioned to us by Victoria, Matt?
John Tortorella.
She loves the idea of him coming to Nashville and being the next coach of the Predators. Gee, what would you think of that?
Wouldn't be dull.
No, you'll learn some new words in post-season and post-game. He's a feisty guy, controversial to some extent, a good coach. A couple other teams are talking about him as well. He's always going to be in the mix when people talk about coaches. He would fire them up. That's for sure. I mean, that's what he does. But from a long-term standpoint, I don't know. It's kind of like Peter Laviolette. Laviolette's a great coach for the first year or two of the team, and after that, his effectiveness changes. So, I mean, it's hard. And Torch is kind of like that as well. I think he comes in and gets the team all hyped up, but keeping them on the long term maybe doesn't necessarily happen.
Guy, the crowds, I mean, it doesn't seem like have suffered a ton from this Pred season. Could it be worse next year? I mean,
Barry was talking about that in his open letter he sent out to everybody, that he's surprised that the crowds are still pretty much capacity. And that's good, because this is the only place they're making money right now. They're not getting any playoff money, and you got to sell tickets in the NHL to make money, and so luckily that is happening.
Yeah, how important is that? I mean, obviously, if it gets to, is that, how big of a factor is that? Obviously, losing is the most important one, but I mean, are they looking at this going, if the crowds were worse, maybe they'd make a move? Because I mean, it had.
So I think if fans just completely turn their back on them, or just show complete disinterest, especially on a Tuesday night game, you have 5,000 people in that arena, and that happens more than once. Okay, yeah. You got my attention as management, as the owners of the team, but right now that's not happening. The people are still. You got a hardcore group of hockey fans in Nashville that the Predators have developed, and I think they're sticking with the team as much as possible, because the fans like the players, they like the people that are involved with the team, and that's a big plus. And so I think that, I think that as long as they're selling tickets, they're okay. When they stop selling tickets and nobody's going to the concession stand, nobody's no, that type of thing, they're going to have to do something because they can't financially make it.
Guy, thank you as always. Good stuff. Let's see how it all plays out.
Well, it's almost over.
Thank God. Talk to you.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Vegas tomorrow night and then a couple of home games. Mark McGee joining us to talk Predator hockey. Obviously, there is a huge, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat there. There's a huge story out there right now. And I don't open the phones very often in the 3 o'clock hour, but I want to now. A bunch of you are driving home. I want you to pick up a phone or get on our text line and give me your feelings, raw as they may be, about Nico and his apparent holdout, or if you want to call it a renegotiation of the contract, because this is probably the most high-profile holdout that we have really seen in the NIL era. 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933 is our number. Billy, how can people text?
Chat room is open. We've got one right now. Need a few more. What are your thoughts on Nico in Knoxville? The saga continuing. We're talking about it. We want to hear from you on YouTube, also Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. Hit the phones. I want to hear from some of you. We're back in a moment on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket.
The Predators win!
Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
Here in Nashville for the 7th Country Music Marathon and Half Marathon. I think it says a lot about the city of Nashville, what it has to offer.
Rock and Roll Nashville isn't just a race. It's the best way to experience this iconic city. We're giving you more music, more fun, and more reasons to run with us. Get immersed in music culture and join us for this legendary tour of Nashville.
Fine-tuned by singular performances.
Sports. Did he not go back into the game after that interception?
Live. Let's get this turned around. And we're all saying, no, they don't. Here.
You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And
the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back. I have asked for some phone calls on this and a little surprised it's been quiet. But if you want to get in and express your opinions about Nico and what appears to be a holdout, 615-553-0933. For those of you who are older, who are either listening to this or watching this, remember in the 80s when the show Nightline debuted, and it was around the hostage situation in Iran, and Ted Koppel would come on. They'd go, "America held hostage. I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline." You know, that's a little bit of what this feels like, is that through the goofiness of NIL, this kid basically has got Tennessee by the you-know-what, and he's taking it to the limit. Now, should I be insulted that $2.4 million feels like for him chump change? Yeah, I'd love to see Tennessee tell him to take his chump change and cram it where the sun doesn't shine. But we all know that Tennessee's caught in a precarious situation, because what they don't want in this multi-million-dollar business they operate that's called college football, and it is multi-million. When you've got 100,000 seat stadium and you're charging what they charge, it is, it is what it is. It's a multi-million-dollar business. Anyway, Billy, I know you got a text there from somebody who's hot, so let's hear it.
Stormy on YouTube. Ray Charles saw the Nico situation coming. His performance last year was pedestrian. Without Sampson last year, Tennessee would not have made the playoffs. I'm hoping Tennessee doesn't give in.
I don't see where they've got any choice.
Well,
I mean, look, the hawk in me would give anything to see a school say to one of these kids, "Shove it. You're not that good. You haven't shown us $4 million worth of stuff." But Tennessee is looking at it as a business, and they're sitting there going, if we don't have him, we're screwed.
Yeah, but at what point do you get to the point of no return here, where if he does come back, the locker room's sitting here going, "What the heck, coach? I mean, he disrespected us. He can do whatever he wants." I mean, it feels like that could damage the locker room. So
sure.
Do you get to a point where you just say, "All right, that's enough"?
I do wonder exactly how Josh Heupel is trying to address this. And I know we need to go to Knoxville immediately. Ryan Shumpert from Rocky Top Insider is on the line with us on ridiculously short notice. Ryan, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, happy to. Appreciate you guys having me on.
So, without having a Doppler radar, what is the latest in this buffoonery?
Buffoonery is probably a pretty good word to describe it, but I think the latest update out there is what Adam Sparks of the Knox News Sentinel had, that there really hasn't been any contact today between Nico in Tennessee, which is no surprise given, at least as of this morning, is no surprise given he didn't show up to practice, and Tennessee practices basically first thing in the morning. But it doesn't sound like there's been any contact since then. So, you never say never, and things change awful quickly when it comes to the transfer portal and roster movement and modern college athletics. But it feels like as every hour passes, it seems more and more likely like Nico Iamaleava's probably played his last snap at Tennessee.
Ryan, this kind of thing breeds crazy social media stuff. I saw him spotted in Amarillo, but truthfully, do people up there think he has bolted Knoxville?
Not that I know of. I don't think that's the expectation, but I think it is, when you talk about not having any contact with the guy, I think there's a whole lot of uncertainty and a whole lot of I don't know what's going on from Tennessee's side of things. So I don't think you would rule that out necessarily, but I don't think that's necessarily the expectation or the thought of what has happened either.
So I'm assuming that, in this 24-hour period of Nightline with Ted Koppel, Tennessee held hostage, that what's going on is that the boosters are being surveyed. Some of the boosters are saying, yeah, we'll pony up more. Others are saying, you tell Nico to shove it up his butt. So, I mean, at some point in the next 24 hours, doesn't Tennessee say to him, okay, you win, we're upping it to 3.4 or whatever number they're going to up it to?
I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think Tennessee is going to hold relatively firm to where they're at, maybe a very slight budge. But almost at this point, it feels like almost past the point of no return when it comes to that at all, to budge at all. I think, look, Nico's probably paid still like a top, the market value's changed some, but he's still paid like a top 10 quarterback nationally. And I don't think he played like a top 10 quarterback nationally last year. So I think from Tennessee's standpoint, when you talk about the precedent that could be set, and I certainly don't think anyone thinks Nico's camp's gone about this the best way of, does Tennessee feel like it's worth it to give in now? I kind of think they don't. I know Chris Lowe, who seems to be as close to this as anybody else, has reported that Tennessee continues to hold firm, that they're not going to change. But look, there's a billion different things that go into this when you talk about locker room dynamics. You talk about what's the confidence level of the quarterbacks you have on campus besides Nico. What's the confidence level that you could go out in the spring transfer portal and bring somebody else in? What's the thought that if Nico does leave, how many receivers are going to follow him? There's a whole lot of different things that I imagine that Josh Heupel and his staff are weighing right now. And I think that's, more so than just, all right, is it worth giving in to pay him the money? Because I just think at this point, this thing has gotten so public and gone so wild that it's more than just, giving him more money at this point. There's a whole lot of other factors that are in play now at this point.
Okay, you're a lot closer to it than I am. Lay out for me what you believe the damage is if Tennessee plays hardball.
I think that's and that is the most important question, because, they play hardball, he leaves. That's, let's say that's the very first step of things going in the wrong direction for Tennessee. I think you already look at a Tennessee receiver corps that is limited on numbers and even more limited on guys that have proven anything in the SEC. I think probably the most highly touted guy in that room is the guy that caught 7 passes last year, is a true freshman of Mike Matthews. He flirted with the transfer portal back in December. Does he leave? Does a Chris Brazell leave? Does a guy like Boo Carter, who flirted with the portal to raise his stock and obviously played defensive back last year and has been working both at defensive back and receiver in spring practice? I tend to think most of that stuff you can iron out with giving them a little bit more money. And certainly you're going to have more to spend if Nico does leave. But then to me, I think the big question is turning and looking at the schedule. I don't think, without Nico, Tennessee is not a college football playoff type team, I don't think, unless they go out and get somebody really good in the portal, which seems really unlikely in the spring period. So what does it do to the floor? Tennessee's schedule is pretty manageable again. I could easily see them being able to win 8 games in the regular season. And if you can do that, I think you say, all right, well, you punt on 1 year, you can still be pretty competent, and then you reset and see what you can do in 2026. in that case, then I think Josh Heupel. It's easy to make the argument of it's not worth putting up with this. Let's do what we think is best for the culture, and let's get by this year, and then see what you can do moving forward. Does Tennessee's floor fall to 6-6, 7-5 if Nico's not the quarterback? 7-5 seems possible. 6-6 maybe seems still a little far-fetched with how manageable the schedule is. So I think those are the big questions. And then the big question that I simply have no sort of feel for is what's the confidence level in Jake Merklinger, who would be, from the second Nico leaves, would be QB1. And obviously that has a huge, huge impact. He's played very few snaps at Tennessee. Is just going to be a redshirt freshman, played, I believe, like 2A high school football in the state of Georgia, was a 4-star recruit, but not a huge commodity. And again, did not play at a very high school football level. And I think that's probably the thing that really I do not know. And I think really only Josh Heupel and maybe Joey Hall's lead offense coordinator and quarterbacks coach have a true feel for is what the confidence level is in him. Because I think when you're talking about how far does the floor drop, Jake Merklinger and his ability is kind of the biggest question.
Okay, Ryan Shumpert is with us from Rocky Top Insider, has given us some great stuff already. Ryan, you know as well as I do that what's going on in that Tennessee football war room is twofold. There's probably some level of how much are we going to negotiate, and then there is a whiteboard somewhere with a list of quarterback names that they think might be doable when this next portal thing happens. Who do you think those names are?
Well, it'd be surprising if Tennessee probably hadn't already tampered with some people today, to your point. The one name that comes to mind just a little bit is Luke Altmaier at Illinois, just because he was a guy that is from Mississippi, had started his career at Ole Miss, played a little bit in the SEC as a younger player, and then transferred to Illinois, had a really nice year last year for Brett Bielema's team. And then funny enough, actually at the Tennessee-Illinois basketball game, announced that he was coming back to Illinois during one of the media timeouts for his senior season. So he's a guy that I think you look at from that range of good player, but he's at Illinois, probably doesn't have some sort of massive NIL deal. Maybe you could poach him. Maybe he has a desire to get back to the SEC, but that's purely speculation on my part. Miller Moss, another name that, played some at USC last year, transferred to Louisville. Those are some quick names that come to mind, but it does feel like it's a really narrow lane when you're looking for someone that you do truly feel could be an upgrade and you do want to invest in an upgrade over a Jake Merklinger, that is to say, not a Nico.
Ryan, this is going to be a stupid. Oh, I think he was still going, and I may not have heard him. Ryan, if I butted in, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's a very thin line of trying to find somebody that is not already have a massive NIL deal, is not at one of these big schools, but you also feel like you can get for a reasonable price and would truly be an upgrade over what Tennessee has on their roster besides Nico.
Okay, this is going to be a dumb question, so bear with it. When I think back to when I was 20 years old, if I had been on that football team, I'm pretty certain I would have walked into Heupel and said, let me clue you in on something. You bring this little SOB back, and I will be name one of a group that bolts. We don't want him. Do you think there's a faction of that team that feels that way?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's how I would feel, to your point. That's how I would feel if I was in that spot of this guy is going to publicly not show up to practice the day before the spring game and hold out for more money when he's already the highest paid player on the team and one of the highest paid players in the country. Yeah, I think that's 1,000% a reasonable thought that a faction of players would feel that way. Maybe I'm out of touch with it. Maybe those guys do truly like Nico so much, and to them it's all right. If you're taking care of me and what I'm making from a financial standpoint, I don't really care. But I have a hard time thinking a lot of people wouldn't be rubbed the wrong way if Tennessee were to give in to Nico's demands or his wish for more money. I think probably the middle ground that becomes more interesting is what if Nico says, all right, I'll come back without any sort of raise. Feels unlikely to me at this point, but let's say he does that. How do those players feel then? Is it still super firm that they don't want him on the team, at all? I think at the end of the day, winning cures all, and certainly we're sitting here in April. We're not sitting here in September. But if those players truly feel like, all right, Nico gives us by far the best chance to win, and he's not gonna, he didn't get what he wanted by holding out or holding in, whatever the term you want to use is, maybe they feel differently. So I'm with you. That would be my natural thought, but things have changed so much, and it's such a different dynamic these days that maybe I'm not completely in touch with what these guys would be thinking.
Ryan, thanks again for taking the time. Nico,
on short notice.
On very short notice. Nico's dad denied any negotiations were going on, and we know there are negotiations going on. How much of a factor or a role has he played really throughout Nico's tenure at Tennessee?
Pretty prevalent factor, I would say, as has the Cordell Sanders, or maybe it's Landers, guy that's been publicly tweeting about it too, was very involved, at least in his recruitment. Landers was, and certainly Big Nicky Amaliava has been involved in everything since he's been at Tennessee. And I almost thought that tweet was really interesting because you're right, he kind of does deny that there's been negotiations, but more than anything, I think he kind of denies that they leaked it, and he kind of flipped it and put it on Tennessee. Which is what I thought when I first read that, which I was already in bed last night with my phone turned off by the time that he tweeted it. But it's the first thing I saw this morning when I woke up. That was the thing that stood out to me, is that, and not only, was he just attacking a reporter, which he certainly was attacking Pete Nakos, but he was kind of attacking Tennessee too. And I think when you see that and then the immediate fallout of Nico not being at practice, which again, they practice first thing in the morning, it's hard not to feel like there was a big disconnect between Tennessee and Nico's camp. And to the question as a whole, Nico's dad is a very, very big part of that, and a very big part of these conversations, I believe.
So, Ryan, we're laughing here when I use and thank you on short notice, very short notice, for coming on. Can we check back with you very late in the next hour to see if there are any further developments before we go off the air?
Yeah, no, that would be good. No problem at all. It feels like there's at least something new that pops up every couple hours or so with this, and the cloud hanging behind all this is the spring games tomorrow, which is just such hilarious timing on it. And Josh Heupel is going to have to go up and speak about it afterwards. So, feel free to have me come back on whenever before the show ends, and happy to give any input or any update if there are any.
Feel free to know we're going to call you. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Ryan Shumpert from Rocky Top Insider, and job well done by Billy Derrick on ridiculously short notice for getting that to happen. After the break, stat of the day, we're going to St. Louis for a story that is absurd, but apparently may have some truth to it. So stick around. Later in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll get back to the Nico soap opera. This is 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, Preds fans, the Predators play their final road game of the season tomorrow night against the Vegas Golden Knights. The game is at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Radio pregame coverage begins at 8.
Smashville lives here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
With no credit check and payments as low as $20 a week, why wait to upgrade your home? At Electronic Express, get everything you need, from premium appliances and TVs to gaming systems and more. Whether it's building your dream home theater or updating your kitchen, we make it affordable and easy. With over 40 years in business, trust us for the best selection, service, and guaranteed low prices. Shop online or at any of our 22 locations across Tennessee and Alabama. Electronic Express, for every moment of your day.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan. A Cromwell media station.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
All right, we're headed up to St. Louis to talk a little Cardinals. Some potential big news coming out of St. Louis, so we'll get to that in just a second. But
Cardinal Deep Throat.
Cardinal Deep Throat, yep. Stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. That's applecollisioncenters.com. All right. Today, we're going baseball, and we're going with a little deep stat number here. Who is leading the MLB in offensive WAR, which is wins above replacement?
Yeah. In other words, who is the most valuable player to their team that is creating more wins than they have any right to expect?
Yep.
So an easy one would be the pitcher, Aaron Judge. And deep down, if he weren't in the picture, that's who I would go with. An offensive WAR, Shohei Ohtani.
No.
Well, show it to me.
It is Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, early going. By the way, I think they have no chance of re-signing him.
Really?
And I think that's going to be the dark cloud that hangs around the Cubs, especially if they play well, because Ricketts has been a complete miser as the owner ever since they won it all. He's gone on this miser kick, and the people in Chicago are pissed, and they feel like they're getting screwed. And this is sort of the test case up there. Kyle Tucker is. I don't think they sign him.
Yeah, they're kind of in a logjam there with a lot of their position players. It looks like. I mean, that's a pretty good Cubs team, but that's hard to keep together. A group as good as they are.
So later in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll go back to Knoxville. Around 4:20, we'll get, because we got a lot of texts from people who want to comment. Okay, so we haven't made contact, have we?
Not yet.
Okay. Billy, are you able to assist with that at all?
I can try.
Okay. And I will, because Deep Throat was texted earlier to remind him.
Deep Throat.
Deep Throat. Yes. Do your best with Deep Throat. So here is, if you're just joining us and wondering what in the world is going on. Okay. Apparently, Nico Iamaleava is a holdout. A holdout from what? Well, spring football practice, and then tomorrow the spring game. Now, how long Tennessee has known that they've got a big old problem, who knows? It's hard to know that just yet. But the simple fact of the matter is that in the NIL world, it's gotten out that he made $2.4 million a year ago. Now, I'm old-fashioned enough, having remembered, what I made as a college student working at a commercial radio station. The answer was $3.60 per hour. And I do wonder, and I'm old-fashioned about this, can anything good happen when a kid that age gets $2.4 million? I don't see how, but it's the world we now live in. And the stupid part of all of this, to me, not only is the NCAA, which has majored in stupid, but our court system has done the same thing. You all tell me what you think. You tell me what you think we got here. When we tried NIL, when we first started yapping about NIL, I think all of us said, look, in some form or fashion, these kids deserve some money. But I think what we were all thinking was on the, let's say, the Power 5 level. Now it's Power 4. That it'd be something like, hey, each player would get $20,000, $25,000, maybe a shot to earn an extra $5,000 based on academics, based on character, based on community service. And instead, the thing went absolutely haywire. And we are now at a point where kids, and I think Nico had a pretty average, pretty season, other than the Ohio State game where he showed great toughness. Other than that, I didn't think he was anything special.
All right, we've got Deep Throat.
Do we really?
Yep.
He's on the line?
Yep.
Hello, Deep Throat.
George, how we doing?
Okay, so St. Louis is a city that we pay attention to here a lot. Cardinal baseball is probably as down as I have ever seen it. In the early going, all the empty seats at Busch Stadium, I never thought I would see. The belief is that they're not very good. The belief is that Bill DeWitt has them up for sale. And you have laid some info on me that blew my mind. Let's hear it.
Yeah, it blew mine as well. So they are indeed for sale. I've heard that they've been for sale for roughly about a year. Some intel I received, there's two leading candidates on the short list. One is Johnny Morris, who is the founder of Bass Pro Shops. And the other is, let's just say, an infamous person, Stan Kroenke, who my stomach hurts when I say that name.
Stan Kroenke was the owner of the Rams who snuck them out of Dodge to move them to Los Angeles. He's a hated figure in St. Louis. So how long has this rumor been out there?
I first heard the Stan rumor about 2 months ago. It has gained a little traction within St. Louis, and it is becoming a little more known, I guess, within the last couple weeks. But it's very concerning. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Cardinal baseball is a religion in St. Louis. Been around forever. So much so I was going through my grandmother's belongings after she had passed a few years back and found a letter that she wrote in like fifth grade. And it was a picture of the St. Louis Cardinals playing the St. Louis Browns at the time, and how much Cardinal baseball meant to her, and how it's, the way of life in St. Louis. And it still is that in many aspects today. But as you mentioned, it's a little down on attendance, and just something seems awry. Something's off.
So fair to say that Cardinal Deep Throat is a person who is really wired to the St. Louis sports community, the sports council. You're not some just, falling off a turnip truck in this. What exactly, why did the city of St. Louis, when they had Stan Kroenke by the you-know-what, why did they let him off the hook the way they did in their lawsuit about him snatching the Rams out of your city?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm still waiting for the 30 for 30 or next Netflix documentary to hit on that story. It was despicable how that all went down. And actually, the city sued the league, the NFL, and Stan was a part of that. And they were awarded $800 million a few years back, which in retrospect was pennies compared to what they deserved. But it was a tough situation, and what people don't realize, not only did Stan uproot the team, he kicked the door on the way out. He released a full page ad in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, just completely demoralizing St. Louis and the region, and how the economy is depleted, and just stating a lot of hurtful things to essentially justify his move to LA. And to be clear, George, and we've talked about this, the Rams should have never left LA in the first place. They were the first professional team in the state. They broke the color barrier for the NFL. They should have done an expansion team in St. Louis. But I think Stan had this in his card since the beginning when him and Georgia Frontier brought the team to St. Louis. He's always, 2 to 3 steps ahead, and this was his ultimate plan.
So DeWitt wants out, and he knows that any dealings with Kroenke that might result in a sale would turn him into public enemy number 1A. So why is he willing to go down that road?
I would like to think that it's a simple, suitable buyer kind of situation, and he was top of the list. Obviously, he has deep pockets. I would hope that the DeWitts have some wits and they wouldn't go down that path. I would also think it would come down to the Major League Baseball owners as a whole. And I can't imagine ownerships voting to ever sell the Cardinals to Stan Kroenke. That just knowing the history. I mean, you think the fan base is depleted right now? If he got his hands on the fan base or on the organization, there would be nobody at that game.
Yeah, it's a suicide mission is what it is. Is there a belief in St. Louis that Kroenke's angle is a revenge to say, you know what, you sued me at the end, so I'm going to double hurt you, buy what you love beyond any imagination, and I'm going to see if I can move them?
I think that's a big piece of it, but I also think people forget Stan Kroenke's full name is Enos Stanley Kroenke. He's named after 2 St. Louis Cardinal Hall of Famers, Enos Slaughter and Stan Musial. That was probably and has been a dream of his to own the Cardinals, as is most kids or fans that grow up rooting for any of their favorite teams, let alone the Cardinals. So I think part of it is an ego thing and maybe a personal goal of his. But the other part, that would be the ultimate revenge. Absolutely. If he got his hands on the organization, let alone tried to move him.
So Cardinal Deep Throat, I'm going to ask you one last thing, and then I'll turn it to Billy Derrick. On the surface, I want to believe that Major League Baseball's owners would never approve Stan Kroenke. But I'm going to ask this question. Is this being written about in St. Louis?
It hasn't hit the mainstream papers. It's in forums and the online, talk threads. I think it hasn't been written about because it's so crazy to even think about. But the reality is baseball is a business, and it's business decisions. And if you've got somebody with the right amount of money and a plan, I think people would listen. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's reality. But I would pray that wouldn't happen.
Billy, here's the part as you get ready to get into this with Cardinal Deep Throat. The downtown community in St. Louis completely relies on Cardinal baseball to bring traffic down there. There's probably no downtown that needs good, solid Major League Baseball the way St. Louis needs that from the Cardinals.
Oh yeah, I mean I've been up there. It was like baseball heaven up there. The way they love baseball. I got a question though. Are you surprised that it's gotten to this point, attendance wise?
I'm not. I think it's funny you brought up baseball heaven. I think the current ownership group has really relied on, and almost too much, the history in the past. Even when you look at the past couple seasons when attendance was down and they weren't playing so good, who'd they bring back? Matt Carpenter, beloved by the fan base. End of his career. Okay, if he wants to end up as a Cardinal, I kind of get that, but they brought that back. They brought him back to sell more tickets. And I think they rely too much on what's happened in the past, and they struggle with trying to develop a plan for the future and what the future looks like for the organization. On top of that, John Mozeliak, he should have been gone 5+ years ago. He's done very well with the Cardinals, and thankful for the success that he's been a part of. But his style, his GM style, he kind of brings a presence of almost like a Jerry Jones in a sense. He's not a GM anymore. He's a president of baseball operations, but for a fact his word is the word, no matter who's under him or who's in that GM spot.
By the way, the Cronkies have been busy this week. They also own the Denver Nuggets, and Josh, the son, is the team president. They fired Michael Malone, and now they have followed suit and fired the general manager as well. They've been busy over the last, let's say, 96 hours. Deep Throat, keep me abreast of this. The baseball fan in me who loves and admires the St. Louis fan base, man, I don't want to see this happen for them. They deserve better.
Will do, George. Appreciate you letting me jump on. And go Cardinals. Hopefully they do turn it around and some right decisions are made in the ownership group.
Cardinal Deep Throat, thank you.
You bet. We'll see y'all.
How crazy a story is that?
That's
Stan
wild.
Kroenke being rumored to buy the Cardinals.
The man who moved them out of St. Louis.
That moved the Rams out.
The Rams, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this has been a Friday that, I'll be honest, yesterday I never saw coming. It's been utterly insane. The Nico Iamaleava thing has gone front page. It appears to be a holdout. Wasn't at practice. Nobody expects him to be at the spring game. He made $2.4 million a year ago. Apparently that's chump change. Apparently he wants to renegotiate. Me? Yeah, I thought he showed great toughness in the Ohio State playoff game in Columbus. I thought that was his one shining moment, to steal a word or two from CBS Sports. The rest of the year,
very meh.
Very pedestrian. So now he's playing hardball. And what's Tennessee going to do? Because it feels like they've been put in a no-win deal, because players around the country are looking at this and kind of wondering, is Tennessee going to be playing hardball? And if so, they'd be the first on record to play hardball. What are the ramifications? The quarterback on campus doesn't appear to be good enough to sustain the level they've been at. You got an athletic director who, the minute they got pretty good, decided that we'd have a talent fee put on your tickets. That was lovely. And now it's a mess. Okay, after the break, we'll take some of your phone calls. I hope some of you will jump in. I'm looking for red-blooded Americans. You don't have to be a Tennessee fan, but this is bound to get your attention. 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. We got some chat room we're going to get to, and then later in the hour, we'll go back to Knoxville for the very latest from Ryan Shumpert and Rocky Top Help Me.
Insider.
Thank you. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. Projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Tonight, your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series against Memphis at First Horizon Park. Pre-game at 6:20.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back and following up on what Jeff Him just said. The Sounds are home tomorrow night at 6:35, and then Sunday is a day game, 2:05. Looks like the weather is going to be extremely good on Sunday. So if you're a baseball fan, get on out there.
Yeah, and talking about the park, it looks, every year they've got new adjustments to the park and in and around the park. So I'm looking forward to getting out there, see what they got.
Adam English has been a really effective general manager. I think they think one of their strengths, Billy, is that in the offseason, they appear to get, in front of a blackboard and put a bunch of stuff up on a wall to see what sticks. And, that's it's been very impressive. They are way better run than probably 95% of minor league baseball teams around the country.
Okay, we've got more Nico stuff in the comments.
Oh, Lord.
And George, who's a Vandy fan, is Nico just mad that he's the second best quarterback in the state to Diego Pavia and wants a little sympathy money?
And if, think about this, if they're looking for a quarterback, they had no trouble taking Jalen Carey, would they reach out to old Diego?
That would be the funniest. That would never happen.
Exactly. Why would it not happen? Why could it not happen?
Well, his style, I don't think Pavia would ever leave the coaches he has. I know money.
Okay, I'll
money
buy
talks,
that. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
But, if you're a kid, I'm thinking back to when I was in college, $3.60 an hour, and somebody says, look, we're going to give you $50,000 just to come over here because you're a brilliant 19-year-old. What would you do? I mean, I don't know. Okay, we'll flip back and forth because people are reacting to this. Again, 553-0933 is the number with a 615 area code. Tyrone in Brentwood, give me some thoughts.
Well, George, good to be with you again. I'm gonna get to Tennessee in just a second, but unfortunately, I gotta take my medicine, man. And I tell you, George, I need you to heal me, man, because as a Duke fan, we just pissed away the national title Saturday night against Houston. I mean, we peed down our leg and just had a bad case of diarrhea. I was shocked they couldn't close that deal and blew that game. I mean, I tell you, it's been brutal. I'm still not over it. I don't know if I ever will be. I'll probably carry it to my grave as a lifelong Duke fan, but I tell you, Shire's got to be better at end of the game situations. I mean, he had to be able to stop the bleeding and offer something. I wish after Cooper hit the three to go up 9 with under 3 minutes, he just said, give me the ball. It's my game the rest of the way. Been a little bit more demanding, but we just flat out choked. Congratulations to SEC. The best team didn't win it in my mind. I believe they would have beat Florida by double digits, but it don't matter because they choked. On to the Tennessee. I'm not surprised by this because I had a hunch when they got beat down by Ohio State. I remember at the time thinking, Nico, wonder will he hit the portal? Wonder will he go, you know what? Because, I mean, you look around the landscape of college football, and at the time, I thought out loud, Oregon might be a good fit for him. Who knows? But I just felt like this is probably the best Tennessee's going to get in a tough SEC. This is kind of their chance. They played the weak part of the SEC schedule, and, they got there against Ohio State, a lot of high expectations, and they got boat race. So I'm not surprised by this. And Tennessee, it's like, hey, are you going to cave? You're going to try to bark back? In my mind, they kind of got to give him what he wants unless they believe in the kid from Brentwood Academy. And I've seen the kid up close, and I don't know if he's ready, my friend. And always a pleasure to talk to you, George, the living legend. Help me with Duke, man. Heal me, George. Heal me, man. I need help. Take care.
Oh, your man needs to get some new inbounds plays because there wasn't one of those inbound plays that he drew up that really got anybody open. And I don't understand why they didn't lob to one of the big kids at the foul line. They got 2 big kids that can go up, lob it to them, and get everybody the hell out of the way.
Yeah, that was just a collapse. I mean, and it's on Shire. It's on.
A lot of it is.
A lot of it is. You have 3 lottery picks, and you can't do anything with. Well, I say anything. You can't get to the national title and even win it. That's saying something about the coaching. He's did a great job with them, but watching the end of that, it was like, this could have been avoided.
So he was referring to George McIntyre from Brentwood Academy, whose grandfather, former Vanderbilt football coach George McIntyre from the late 70s into the mid 80s, Boy, that you talk about putting somebody under the fire in game one. If you remember, Peyton Manning did not start game one. A Hall of Fame baseball player did. Remember who that was?
Todd Helton.
It sure was. I've got to believe that if Tennessee plays any level of hardball, that what that means is that over the last, let's say, 36 hours, they have been in contact with somebody or bodies that they feel comfortable enough can be game manager or perhaps slightly better.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see, we see mostly on Twitter, people all, with the portal, Twitter is the place to be. You get all the updates. I would be surprised if we see a quarterback hit the portal with a do not contact tag. That's when that tag is on that player, can't be contacted because he already knows where he's going. So I would keep an eye on that. A solid quarterback.
When has that ever stopped anybody?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole this is the ridiculous part of this is, the portal's open. So now you can contact. Now schools are going to be reaching out.
Okay. And
this portal opening and closing is ridiculous.
Hold on to that thought for a minute. Let me go Tony in Nolensville real quickly. Tony, give me a couple of minutes if you can.
George, I actually had sent anything in through Facebook, but I don't think it went through. So that's why I picked up the phone and thought I'd call. Now I'll give you a couple of quick minutes.
Okay.
Number one, as far as UT situation, I think this is a classic example of not a university, because all of them are like this. Let's put it out there. It's a university and its boosters. The greed that they have created is now being turned on them by the athletes and the greed and the money that they demand because of their play. And we knew it was going to come to this point. And at some point, that booster is going to start saying, hey, I'm not getting my bang for the buck. Because simply put, you've got boosters out there trying to buy wins. That's what they're doing. And when you don't see the W's as often as you want, or be contending for a championship as much as you thought your beloved university that you follow would be, then you as a booster are going to start pulling something back. And it's the means versus the end, and the means versus the situation to what's going on. And I just think it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think you're going to see it at other universities as well. So that's my comment on it. I think it's just what we knew was coming. Watson talked about it 4 and 5 years ago, and we're all seeing it, and it's just happening everywhere. And, guys, there's one last question I'd like to ask y'all. How many of these all of these contracts supposedly that they're getting, how many really pay out to each university to where they get the returns that they were looking for? I bet it's not 65, 70%. So that's just something I was going to throw out there. Guys, have a good, safe weekend. Thank you, George. See you, Billy.
Hey, Tony, have a good weekend. So it would feel like in the aftermath of this that some schools may start saying, okay, look, we'll give you the money you want, but if you bolt, it's just like the coach. You got to pay a buyout.
Yeah, I think what Tony said there is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's also true.
The greed of the Tennessee boosters is coming back to bite them.
But is it really, when you say that, is it really just them?
No, it's not. In this specific situation.
Most of the SEC into this.
Right. But you go back to, like I said, Nico was the first big-name high school quarterback to have a blockbuster deal. It was $8 million over the span of 4 years. He's up to making 2.4, 2.5 right now. And look, this has happened at other schools, but now doesn't perform. Nico wants more money because the market has increased, and you see this drama. Does this remind you of the Cowboys in the NFL at certain points?
Well, I mean, it's professional sports. This
Right.
is professional sports is all this is.
At what point does this start to make schools think, hey, let's tone it down a little bit?
Well,
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, except that they all want to win and all of their boosters want to win. And until there's some mechanism in play legally to stop a lot of this, I don't know what you do. I do think I've brought something to the table that says, okay, you want your money? We're going to give it to you. But just like the coach who's getting the money he wants, if he leaves, there's a buyout clause, and you're going to have to pay that buyout. Or the school that wants you so bad is going to have to pay it.
Right.
Ooh.
There's so many issues here.
Well, give me a couple more.
Silas asks, if he leaves, should Tennessee go with the backup, who's Jake Merklinger? That's not all that special, but knows the system, or do they go to the portal and take a gamble on a guy that may or may not fizzle out?
Okay, I don't want to be ugly here, but the backup sounds like, he can walk and chew gum. I don't hear anybody saying he's got great potential. You hearing that anywhere?
No.
This is a program that, with all the momentum they've had the last couple of years with Heupel, I just don't think they can afford right now to just turn it over to some kid that they really have no reason for decent expectations. The athletic director has already come out with his little, whatever you want to call it, the surcharge, the talent fee, and I'm sure that went over like a lead balloon. But when you're 11-2 or 11-1, it's a lot easier for everybody to ignore that. If it's 6-6, nobody ignores it. So they're going in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going in the portal. Stormy, going back to the Cardinals discussion, he says, I've been a Cardinals fan since '62, and this segment has been a nightmare to hear. The pathetic direction the team has taken has left a horrible taste in my mouth.
That's Mozeliak. John Mozeliak has screwed that thing up royally.
The general manager.
Yeah, and whatever title he's got now, and he's not very well liked there. And I never thought I would see the day when I watch them. I've got the extra innings package, and when I see the number of empty seats down in the lower level at Busch Stadium in the first couple of weeks, and the weather hadn't been great, but that's a great baseball town, and there are a ton of empties.
It is. I never thought it. That's why I asked. I was like, are you surprised that it's gotten to this point? I never thought it would or could, but it has.
Yeah, and this has been a couple of years in the making. Now, the Stan Kroenke part of this, I'm trying to think of what would be similar to this.
Man, that's. I mean, are we going LeBron going back to Cleveland? I mean, because there were still a lot of people that didn't like LeBron.
That's
bigger scale, probably. But
I hadn't thought of that. But
look,
I don't.
If he
first
can,
of all, the good news is I don't think Major League Baseball owners will approve him.
Well,
they are not letting that team out of St. Louis. That's too good a market.
Letting the team out of St. Louis.
Yeah, if he tried to pull, let's say he bought that team, he had no problem pulling the Rams out of there.
No, he wouldn't pull them out of St. Louis.
Who's to say that?
There's no way.
Depends on how mad he is.
Well, say he buys the team, they stay in St. Louis, and they start rolling, they start winning.
Yeah, it probably. I mean, they ignore the fact that he's it. But early on, that doesn't go real well.
No, very early on, before the season starts, before the potential winning starts, that would get ugly if this happens.
So earlier in the show, Ryan Shumpert from Rocky Top
Insider.
Thank you. Joined us. And we had the joke, thank you for joining us on short notice. Billy, how short a notice was it?
Like 3 minutes, short notice. I texted him. He said, sure thing, I'll call in. So hoping to get him back on here. I do have a piece of news to report.
Well, let's hear it.
North Carolina forward Cade Tyson has entered the transfer portal. Former Belmont transfer.
Well, if I'm Belmont.
Come on back.
Yeah. Because, he really appeared to prosper at Belmont. Went to North Carolina. It didn't work. If I'm Belmont now, you may say, look, he's looking for a lot bigger money. Who knows? But if I'm Belmont, I'm sure reaching out. By the way, hold on. Let me run one more thing out there before we go to the break. Here's how this kind of stuff operates right now. Let's just say, in theory, Billy, that I had a nephew who was a great college football player.
Mm-hmm.
His name, let's, for argument's sake, say is not in the portal.
Yep.
So coaches at, let's make up a school, West Virginia, legally can't contact him because he's not in the portal. But let's say that somebody at West Virginia knows me, puts a phone call in and says, hey, we want your nephew to know we're ready to pony up, Buttercup.
Yep.
We can't tell him that, but you can. And so for those schools that are acting like, they're abiding by the rules, that's what they're doing. They're going through a third party to deliver the news.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing.
After the break, we're probably going back to Knoxville. The soap opera continues.
Yeah.
Tennessee held hostage. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Here in Nashville for the 7th Country Music Marathon and Half Marathon. I think it says a lot about the city of Nashville, what it has to offer.
Rock and Roll Nashville isn't just a race. It's the best way to experience this iconic city. We're giving you more music, more fun, and more reasons to run with us. Get immersed in music culture and join us for this legendary tour of Nashville.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
You're
two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, real quickly, I'm going to be in Loretto, Tennessee on Sunday. I am emceeing Loretto High School's basketball banquet. They won the state title in their classification. Kind of a Hoosiers kind of story. Pretty amazing what they did. We were going to have their basketball coach, Greg Tips, on today around 4:30. I'm really sorry. Based on the stuff that's going on in Knoxville, we felt like we needed to shift gears. And that means poor Ryan Shumpert, who has been held hostage from Rocky Top
Insider.
Thank you very much, is back on with us. So what's your life been like the last 36?
Oh man, it's the time of year where it's mostly basketball transfer portal consuming me. I don't think since the time I've gotten back from Indy, I have left my apartment without my laptop because you're just in fear of something happening at any moment. And that concern has just been turned to football today with the Nico Iamaleava stuff. So a lot of chaos, a story that feels like at this point, no new news is just news on its own. It is a reunion between Iamaleava and Tennessee looking less and less likely.
So I'm going to try to ask some questions that I didn't ask the first go-round. Did Tennessee's coaching staff have a pretty good idea going into today that he would be a no-show?
No, I think that was a complete surprise to Tennessee's coaching staff. I think they were surprised that the news got out yesterday. You know, obviously they were very aware of the negotiations given they were a part of them. But they did not expect that to get out last night. And while that wasn't ideal for them, that certainly wasn't something Tennessee wanted. I think the expectation was still completely for Nico to be at practice today and playing in the spring game tomorrow.
Have they given up hope that he would show up tomorrow? I realize that's kind of a dumb question. If he wouldn't show up to this, why would he lose his leverage? But is anybody thinking he might?
I think it would be a surprise to anybody at Tennessee if he were to show up tomorrow. I mean, as we talked about a little bit ago, the fact that they haven't been able to get into contact with him or anyone in his camp today seems to be the biggest indication of where things are at. So I don't think they expect him to be there tomorrow. I don't know if I would go as far as saying they've given up hope, but I think it would definitely be a surprise at this point.
Ryan, I put it out there at the very start of the show that the way it was explained to me by somebody who's pretty good on the inside of Tennessee, that over this 24-hour period, they're reaching out to certain boosters to say, how would you feel about a re-pony up? Some perhaps are saying, yeah, I'll do it. Some perhaps are saying he can, renegotiate and shove it. Is that what you're hearing, that that's sort of what they're doing?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it, for sure. I think that's definitely going on. And I mean, look, you're talking about what he's asking for. Now, I'm sure there's a middle ground there that they could probably find. What he's asking for is $2 million more. I memean, that's a lot of money, and I think you got to make sure you have the ability to do that, even if you want to. But I'm not sure it's as simple as just, all right, if the boosters are willing to do this, if you have the money, all right, let's give it to them. But I think that is something that's happening or something that has happened is kind of a starting point for Tennessee to know kind of where they're at in the negotiations and what they can even do, and what demands or what wishes they can, reward him or give to him, even if that's something that they want to do, which I'm not necessarily sure is the case.
Ryan, if they were to cave and get him to the $4 million mark, where does that rank among college quarterbacks right now?
I think that would be right back up there at the top, at least in the top 2 or 3, which is obviously when he signed that contract, which was where he was at. So I'm sure that's the thought process. I'm sure they want to be paid. Nico and his camp wants to be paid like the highest paid quarterback, or at least in that group. But obviously, there's a proof of concept now. And Nico could obviously get better, and he wasn't terrible by any means in his 1 year starting. But he also wasn't the best quarterback in the country, and he doesn't look like a guy that I don't think anybody locally or nationally comes into the 2025 season thinking he's going to be one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the country. So I think that's to some extent where there's a disconnect. And then also I just think the way everything has gone about with these negotiations, obviously this was a little bit of a sticking point too back in December when there were rumors that he was going to go in. And wanted some more help around them. And I guess that's kind of the thing I would go back to. It just feels like such a short-sighted outlook from Iamaleava's camp. I would think, if anything, you would be wanting Tennessee to spend that $2 million extra on players around them, because, not that there's been no talent, but I don't think Tennessee's done the best job at offensive line and receivers, putting him in a position to be successful. I would say go do that. Go put him in a position to be successful, and Nico would be in line to make a whole lot more money in the NFL draft next spring than, possibly the alternative of him going wherever he would go this offseason, or even staying at Tennessee and making $4 million with a somewhat lackluster supporting cast.
Ryan, best as you can tell, who is Team Iamaleava? You mentioned earlier his dad, who appears to be right in the middle of it. Who else is in it?
I think it's his dad, and then Cordell Landers, who handlers maybe not the right word, but handler adjacent is kind of what he was during Iamaleava's recruitment. He was very, very involved on that in Knoxville and all the visits, traveling with the 7-on-7 and that type of stuff. So those are the two names that I think are pretty prevalent when you talk about Nico's camp, being his dad and then Cordell Landers.
I'm going to ask you one more thing and then turn it to Billy. Is there any evidence that there's something more to this, like a rift between him and Josh Heupel, him and an offensive coordinator, him and a quarterback coach? Is there anything personal, or is it just a money-grubby transaction deal?
Yeah, I don't think anything with a rift between Nico and the coaching staff, or Nico and Josh Heupel. I don't think that's the case at all. I think even throughout the spring, it's just stuff's been going on. Nico and Heupel have a pretty good relationship. I don't think things have gotten rocky between them. I would imagine if things go the way they're trending towards, and Nico's not back in Tennessee, my guess is that you would see Nico's side pushing the narrative of there not being enough help. I don't think Nico's side is going to want to push the narrative of he left just because of money. I think you'll see them push the narrative of Tennessee didn't do enough to help him. They didn't put enough talent around him, and they weren't going to be in a very good spot to help his career this season. And, there probably is some truth to that. But at the same time, if the money was what they were asking for, I think they wouldn't care a whole lot about that concern, which makes it does feel, when that's my guess, that's going to be the narrative, it makes it feel a little hollow.
If none of this drama would have happened, Ryan, and Nico, is fine with the money and he stays at Tennessee and everything is set going into the season, what could this Tennessee team do this year? Because no Dylan Sampson, you mentioned that the receivers maybe aren't obviously elite, but solid at the very best. What could this Tennessee team have done? And I act like Nico's already leaving, but under the assumption he would stay, what could this team have done?
That's a really good question, Billy. To me, the feeling is kind of what they did last year, to go 10-2 and make the playoff, and you're probably on the road. Now, I don't think you wouldn't think you're going to have to play a team as good as Ohio State, but no matter who you're going on the road to play, I think that's a very tall task to win that game. So I think that's important when you're Tennessee looking at the risk. I don't think this is a team that's going to contend for the SEC championship. I don't think this is a team that's going to contend for the national championship with Nico. I think their ceiling is about what they did last year, which is certainly good. That was a really good season for them, a step in the right direction, but not anything groundbreaking either. I don't think they have the talent around them unless he makes just a ginormous jump where he can kind of carry the offense. They'll be able to do a whole lot more, even at the very best, than what they did last year. I mean, I've been saying to this point in the offseason that I felt like 9-3, 10-2, kind of on that range was probably the most realistic option for them. And a lot of that's because, again, their schedule is not incredibly difficult.
All right, last thing. Would you be surprised if a quarterback hits the portal with a do not contact tag in the next 24, 48 hours?
Yeah, no would be my answer to that question. I don't know who that quarterback would be, but just the nature of how all this works these days, I'm sure Tennessee will be working the phones and talking to people around quarterbacks that they have some interest in. So no, that would not be something that's surprising to me. And I think that's an important thing to note. They have not only just 2 scholarship quarterbacks besides Nico on the roster, they don't have a single walk-on quarterback on the roster right now. They had multiple walk-ons, one ran out of eligibility. Gaston Moore entered the transfer portal, never ended up landing anywhere. We'll see. Maybe they try to get him to come back. He was a real veteran, a guy that was even with Josh Heupel at UCF, but still has one more year of eligibility. And then Ryan Dameron, who played his high school football up at Henry County in West Tennessee, transferred, I believe, Stephen F. Austin. So there's literally, if Nico leaves, there are 2 quarterbacks on the roster. So they're going to have to go out and get bodies at the very least. And certainly an ideal situation for Tennessee would be to get someone that could come in and compete with Merklinger for the starting job.
Ryan, on very short notice, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, happy to do it, George. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks,
Listen,
Ryan.
you have a great weekend.
Will do. Y'all do the same.
Okay, Ryan Shumpert from Rocky Top
Insider.
Thank you. Now, a couple of things to think about. In this handler world, these handlers are not getting what professional agents get in that 3 to 4% thing. These handlers are in the 15 to 20% range.
Yep.
So the handler may also be saying, let's go. I need a little more money. 15 to 20% of a $2 million raise makes the handler a pretty good amount of money. And here's another sobering thought. If this thing plays out and Nico bolts, can you imagine the questions for Josh Heupel at SEC football media days in Hotlanta, GA?
Whew.
Can you imagine?
Get ready. Buckle up.
As Larry Munson would have said, can you imagine? Oh, my God.
This is just
it's insane.
The soap opera that is and has been Tennessee football over the last 20 years is just it's pretty fun to track, to be honest.
In college athletics, we have lost our way.
Yep.
I mean, if you can't see it, I don't know what else to say. So are we trying to make people money since I'm on a 2-game winning streak?
Well, you are.
Yes.
It's brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. We take a look what happened last night. We got a little win streak going.
Way to go, Braves. Did I see the end of it? Heck no. I was asleep.
I'm surprised they got that game in.
Long rain delay, way into the evening.
Who you got tonight?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Did I not send that to you earlier? No, that is not tonight.
That's not
so
tonight.
I have to get out my trusty little thing here. I'm taking San Diego, the Padres, at home against the Colorado Rockies. San Diego is a big favorite.
The Padres.
This feels like one I got to win.
You need to finish this week off strong.
3-game winning streak. That's what we need. Okay. I don't even want to imagine what Monday's going to be like. But I have a feeling that whatever prior thoughts I may have had, I may have to rechange it again. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Have a good weekend. Drive safely. We want you back for Monday's soap opera. For Billy Derrick and for Nico, I'm George Plaster.
And Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan. So long, everybody.